Greetings to all of you. I wanted to take this video and talk more in depth about the powerful configuration that we have now with the outer three transpersonal planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. It's highly significant that they are in a dance with each other where they're in sextiles with each other. So we had Pluto in Capricorn sextiling Neptune in Pisces, sextiling Uranus in Taurus, in earth and water signs. Remember that sextiles and the outer two in that configuration are in a trine with each other. Sextiles and trines are these very supportive aspects where the planets are in similar elements. They're in complementary elements. So they know how to work together and collaborate together in an effective way. So they were in water and earth signs. Now, since July and Uranus moved into Gemini, they're in air and fire signs with Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius. I want to talk about what that means for us collectively and also how it impacts us personally. Because it means if you have planets that are in aspects to one of these, they are likely in aspect to all of these. And it means that certain areas of our own lives are getting targeted in an intense way by the energies of all three of these transformational planets. But part of what is significant for us, collectively and individually, is that this is a rare configuration of these planets. As my good friend Pam Gregory said in a recent interview, we can't find a historical time in the past where these three were in these signs, in these sextiles with each other. As I did my own research, the closest I could come is to find a configuration approximately 12,376 years ago, around 9,244 BCE, when they were in these configurations of sextiles together, but in different signs. What's significant is to find a time where they coordinate in this way, in these particular signs. You're having to integrate their different synodic cycles. In other words, every pair of planets has its own process of how it's in a cycle with, they're in a cycle with each other, lasting a certain number of years before they come back into conjunction, come back into a new cycle together. So the synoded cycle for Pluto and Neptune is approximately 492 years. For Pluto and Uranus, approximately 127 years. And for Neptune and Uranus, about 171 years. So you can imagine the complexity of having all of these cycles synchronize. So again, the closest I could find that they were in at least this kind of configuration together dates back to 9,244 BC, where it's most likely that Pluto was about 0 degrees of Libra, Neptune 0 degrees of Gemini, and Uranus 0 degrees of Leo. This would mean they were in sextiles in different signs, and Neptune and Pluto would have been the outer two in the configuration with Uranus as the midpoint. But isn't it interesting to think about the last time they were in this type of synchronization with each other, this type of being in these aspects with each other, that it was approximately 12,376 years ago, which is the midpoint of this last precessional cycle. The timing of that 9,244 BCE would have been during the time of the Younger Dryas period, the time of the cataclysm, as we were in that turning point in the Hindu Yuga cycle from moving from the time of ascending consciousness into descending consciousness. Now, as we're at this critical point of moving out of the descending cycle into the ascending cycle, these three transpersonal planets are back in collaboration with each other to, in an accelerated way, support us in this time of awakening and transformation. So I think this combination of these outermost planets in these aspects with each other are activating, are supporting and activating this time of accelerating change. And let's unpack this a little bit and look at what they mean individually, what they mean together, and then how they impact us in our own charts. Pluto in Aquarius, as I talk about in many of my videos, is the planet of transformation, guiding us into the Aquarian age, guiding us into these new paradigms. So Pluto in Aquarius is supporting us in the social and collective changes that we're in right now. It calls us out of hierarchical power over paradigms, back into more community and collaboration, more openness to diversity, more concern about humanitarian issues and equality and social justice and acceptance of diversity. It can also mean, being in the sign of Aquarius, acceleration in intensification of our exploration of technology. Remember, I view the shadow aspect of our movement into the age of Aquarius as an increasing idealization of technology and artificial intelligence and even transhumanism. But the deeper meaning of Pluto and Aquarius is the call to transform ourselves out of these paradigms of the past into a remembrance of the capacity of our consciousness. Remember that Aquarius is the constellation of the water bear, pouring the urn of living waters to the earth. And I see this as the waters of consciousness, the waters of living energy, the waters of life, guiding us to remember who we are and what we're capable of as we transform and transmute into fifth dimensional ways of being, into higher consciousness. Neptune in Aries is guiding us to dissolve those paradigms of the age of Aries. It is asking us to release our attachment to ego, Aries. It's calling us into new ways of understanding ourselves and integrating our spirituality with our sense of self, Aries, and moving into new forms of spirituality. It's guiding us into new ideals, new dreams for how we can be in our interactions with each other, guiding us to live from those visions, those ideals with courage, with the capacity to take initiative, Aries, to move in new directions. And I believe with Saturn now in conjunction with Neptune and Aries, it's helping ground that. It's supporting us in manifesting those new spiritual understandings and new dreams and ideals and intentions and ways of being. It's guiding us in having a new vision for ourselves and for humanity. Uranus in Gemini is supporting us. Remember, Uranus is the truth teller and the planet of radical change. It cuts through illusion and guides us to see the truth and helps us to shed patterns that no longer serve us. So, Uranus and Gemini is both helping us develop new ways of thinking and perceiving and communicating. It is also, I believe, going to be increasing the disclosure of what's hidden, cutting through illusion to reveal what's been in the shadows, to guide us in having more clarity, Uranus, being more aligned with truth and moving in new directions. Uranus and Gemini also can mean the exploration of more technology. But again, I think the deeper meaning of these archetypes of Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, and remember, they're trining each other. I believe the deeper archetypal meaning of that is how are we changing our ways of perceiving and thinking to move into higher consciousness, to move into radically new ways of seeing ourselves and our world, and to move into new paradigms. So it's interesting, again, if you think about these three transpersonal, transformational planets in the signs that they're in connection with the precessional cycle, I find it highly significant that Uranus in Gemini, Gemini was the age before we moved into the time of the Kali Yuga, the time of our lowest level of consciousness, which started as we moved into the age of Taurus. So I think another meaning of Uranus in Gemini is remember those paradigms, those ways of thinking and being that you had in the age of Gemini before moving into the time of lower consciousness, before the time of forgetting, the time of separation and disconnection from source, from each other, from our deeper understanding of ourselves. And in that sense, I think Uranus in Gemini is also calling us to break free from the paradigms of polarization and are being fixed in paradigms of duality. It's interesting to me that in the age of Gemini, some of what we see in ancient findings, ancient archaeological findings from that time, are all these twin goddesses. It's as if there's this increasing understanding of duality, but in connection. And as we move into the Kali Yuga, we get more and more caught in that sense of duality and disconnection, seeing things as polarized, light and dark, good and bad, male and female. And I think another part of Uranus calling us into change, radically new ways of thinking, is saying, let go of polarization. Let go of that illusion of duality. See the diversity, but see the underlying unity. Remember that Gemini are the two twins in connection with each other, integrating duality, integrating polarity. So Uranus in Gemini signifies the age of Gemini before we moved into the Kali Yuga and time of lower consciousness. And then Neptune in Aries. Aries is in the midpoint of the age of Aries that we came to our lowest ebb, our lowest point in the Kali Yuga. And so Neptune in Aries is saying, dissolve that. Dissolve your attachment to those ways of thinking and being. And the lowest level of our time in the Kali Yuga is when we got caught in war, got caught in those extremes of polarization, got caught in ego consciousness and greed and competition and power over. And Neptune is saying, release all of that, dissolve all of that. Remember Neptune, the meaning of the oneness of all that is. Then Pluto in Aquarius is saying transform and move into this age of Aquarius, the first age as we exit the Kali Yuga and that time of our lowest level of consciousness. Transform and move into these higher ways of being, higher forms of consciousness. So it's extraordinary that in that sense, these outer transits, these outer planet transits are guiding us in this collective journey to see the larger cycle we've been in and to be supported in releasing those patterns from the past to open to higher consciousness. And as I've talked about in earlier videos, I truly believe we are in a time as humanity, a unique point in time, just as these are in a unique configuration with each other, these transpersonal, transformational planets. We're in a unique time where we can make an evolutionary leap and step off the wheel of samsara, the wheel of suffering, and no longer have to go through these cycles of ascending and descending consciousness. We can step off the wheel to remember who we are, to align with higher consciousness, to reclaim our capacity as humanity to become fifth dimensional beings of love and higher consciousness. This is a time of awakening. And remember that Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are the higher octaves of Mars, Venus, and Mercury. So they're also supporting us in transforming our ways of acting, Mars, our ways of being in relationship, Venus, our ways of thinking, Mercury. And I'll put the link below this video to the meditation that I've done in how to integrate the energies of these outer planets to support us in clearing our chakras and in moving into these higher energies of Mars, Venus, and Mercury. Because Pluto, these planets that are the higher octaves of these personal planets, are supporting us in this transformation to align our actions, Mars, with divine will, Pluto, to move from attachment in personal relationships, conditional interactions, into unconditional love, divine love, Neptune, and to move from our egoic ways of thinking and our left brain analytical ways of thinking that keep us in separation into that capacity to connect with divine mind, Uranus, to move beyond the limitations of our human minds, to open to the capacity of higher consciousness. So this is how these planets are helping transform us and guide us in this time where we have this capacity to make this evolutionary leap as humanity and to move into higher ways of being, of thinking, of relating, of being in community with each other, of being in a whole new experience of what it means to be human and to be able to co-create a new earth together. But again, look at where these land in your personal chart. Look at what houses they land in and how they're activating these energies in your life. Again, think of the themes of Uranus and Gemini Where are you being called to break out of patterns from the past and beliefs, perceptions from the past, to think and see and perceive in new ways? Neptune, where are you being called to dissolve your attachment to ego? Neptune and Aries, to be able to move in new directions that are more oriented from that deeper, mystical, spiritual part of yourself, from your own intuition, from your own connection with cosmic consciousness. What are you needing to dissolve, to open to higher consciousness? And Pluto, where is that landing in your chart, calling you into the paradigms of the Aquarian age, calling you into transformation and that alchemical energy of what are you needing to burn away to move into these new ways of being and into the paradigms of the Aquarian age that are about higher consciousness, collaboration, equality, justice, fairness, living in right relationship, integrating the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, coming into wholeness, authenticity, the truth of who you are. But then also look at where these target particular planets in your chart. Just as an example, say you have your sun in Libra, in the early degrees of Libra. Look for planets that are within a 5-degree orb of these early degrees of these signs and see where, for example, if you had your sun in the early degrees of Libra, that means Neptune's going to be opposite your sun and Uranus and Pluto will be trining your sun. That is calling you into dissolving an old sense of yourself, with Neptune dissolving some of the ways you may have experienced your identity and sense of self in the past. Uranus is calling you into clarity, into seeing yourself in new ways and shedding patterns that are out of balance to the truth of who you are. And Pluto is transforming you, empowering you, guiding you to move into these new ways of being and to trust the transformation that you're in. Say, for example, your moon is in the early degrees of Aries. You may feel overwhelmed at times with that Neptune conjunct your moon, flooding you with feelings or opening your consciousness and expanding your intuition. But Uranus then is guiding you into more clarity about what you feel and what you're needing to be aware of emotionally to be in this time of change and dissolving the patterns of the past. And Pluto sextiling your moon is supporting you in transforming the ways in which you work with your emotions. It's deepening you, taking you from a way in which Moon in Aries, you may at times have dealt with your emotions through quickly reacting and then releasing what you're feeling and moving on and just wanting to uh, discharge uncomfortable emotions to keep moving forward. And Pluto may be saying, wait a minute, drop deep. Take time to tune into what you feel. Let Uranus sextiling your moon give you clarity about what you need to face emotionally. 2, Neptune conjunct your moon. Open more to compassion, to empathy, to a capacity to feel all that you feel without being overwhelmed by it, but to allow yourself to then be in that time of spiritual expansion. Look at what planets are getting targeted by transiting Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. Look at those areas in your life that you may be called more intensely into transformation. Because whatever planets are getting targeted is telling you this is the area you're really working a time of transformation and change in the most intense way. Is it Venus around relationships? Is it Mars, the ways in which you're acting? Is it Jupiter, your beliefs, your sense of faith, your trust in what's unfolding? Look at what's getting targeted and work with these energies at their highest level of consciousness to support you in opening to them, trusting them, not resisting them, but allowing them to carry you into this time of accelerated change and awakening and transformation. Remember, these transpersonal energies are not something we can control with our minds or with our egos. They are transforming us. And the key is honor those energies, be in relationship with them, welcome them. Ask them to support you in what you need to see, what you need to clear, what you need to heal, how you need to transform to be able to move into the highest possible expression of who you truly are as you're in alignment with these energies that are supporting you in alignment with your soul self and into alignment with cosmic consciousness. So I encourage you to look at these transits and work with them in your own life. Remember, you can always download your chart and get a sense of that through Pam Gregory's website. You can also get your free chart and transits through astro.com. And again, look at what houses these are landing in. Look at what aspects they're in to your planets and meditate on them. Allow yourself to be opening to these energies and how they're guiding you, transforming you, and supporting you to move into higher consciousness. These energies will be in this configuration. Now, remember that Pluto is going to remain in Aquarius, but Neptune will go retrograde and move back into Pisces from October 22nd until January 27th, 2026. Uranus will go retrograde and go back into Taurus November 7th until it goes fully into Gemini April 27th, 2026. So once we get to the end of April, these three will be staying in those signs and be in this powerful configuration with each other. Uranus and Gemini, Neptune and Aries, Pluto and Aquarius, in and out of about a 5-degree orb with each other through July of 2029. So across the next 4 years, these planets are activating this powerful, accelerating transformation for us collectively and individually. And remember, the key is to work with these energies because they are powerfully supporting us and guiding us into these new ways of being, into this fifth dimensional reality and consciousness that we're all capable of. So may we collaborate with them, be in relationship with them, take time to meditate and attune to them, to honor these energies and how they are supporting us in our transformation, and to support each other as we navigate these shifts so that we are collaborating with them, with each other, to co-create these new ways of thinking, new ways of acting, new ways of being, to co-create a new earth together. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.